doors, open the gate. Super Cross stands loud, proud, and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Welcome, everyone. I am so excited today to have with us Stefan Martinovic. He is a real estate developer working on three really super, just sustainable, regenerative, and exciting real estate projects. And I'm so excited to share these with you because I just love the projects he's working on. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Devin. Appreciate it.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And, you know, the projects you're working on, I'm just going to add a little bit of video to kind of illustrate these three simultaneous projects you're working on. But give us a quick overview.
Sure. So I guess the way that I would describe it, I'm the founder of Circular, and what we're building is a new real estate company that offers really a portfolio of projects that work across agriculture, hospitality, housing, and really create a lot of unique environmental and economic synergies between them. First by growing food at a large old dairy farm that we've been reimagining into an 80-room regenerative agritourism resort. So providing really thoughtful farm to table cuisine and accommodations that really blend in with the landscape to give people an integration with nature throughout the course of their stay, and then using the food that's grown on site not only for educational purposes but to also feed our guests at the property with the two restaurants that'll be located there, and then also at a sister restaurant as well, which you saw as a separate building that we have been working on down in the Hudson Valley. So what's exciting about all of that is that the waste products from both of those ventures get upcycled in a third site that we are working on developing, which is a first of its kind urban gourmet mushroom farm, which takes food waste from ours and other restaurants, as well as all sorts of other organic matter, and then processes them, and adds a mycelium element in order to be able to use that to grow organic mushrooms in an indoor controlled environment with a high level of economic efficiency and the ability to basically put those mushrooms back onto the plate and then to reuse even those waste products as compost back at our regenerative farming operation.
It sounds really, really cool. And there's some exciting synergy. Let's review for a minute the locations of all of these places. They're all in New York State, right?
Correct. So they're all located within a couple hours of one another. Kind of our flagship property called Livingston Farm. It's in the town of Livingston Manor, which is in Sullivan County, New York, in the beautiful Western Catskills. It's the home of the Woodstock Music Festival in 1969. And a lot of really exciting growth happening, just in hospitality, but also in housing. You come right down Route 17, and you can fork off one of two directions. If you head north, you're going to hit our restaurant property called Wren of the Woods, which is in the town of Armonk, where I live. Claim to fame as being host to IBM's global headquarters, among other things. And just south of that in Harlem, which is in Upper Manhattan, is where our mushroom farm is located on 128th Street.
Wow, it's a fascinating combination of different projects. So let's talk for a minute about the farm. And before we do that, let's stop. Let's just pause real quick. You are at this point raising capital for this project on small change. And this offering is open to any investor, right?
Yes. So we have invested a significant amount of personal capital between my family and I and our partners. And now we're looking to, broaden the pot to bring in some members of the community as well as third-party investors in order to help us advance these ventures. So we've been working very diligently to acquire the properties, which we have So we own them and have them tied up. And also to take those projects through a conceptual design and entitlement phase, some of which have been, extensive. But, now we're, excited to be at the point where we're closing in on the ability to break ground, and, hence the need for some additional preferred equity capital to come into play so that we can get the projects out of the ground and operating.
Yeah, I love that you share some math to demonstrate the return potential here. It's really kind of an exciting, I think, opportunity for investors, again, open to anyone. Let's talk about the project. So let's start with what you think of, I guess it's Livingston Farm, right? What are the aspects of that? It's not just a farm. It's much more than that. Tell us about that project.
Sure. Yeah, it's so much more. So the site is 117 acres. So it's, I like to compare it to the size of a state park that we privately own. And it's comprised of a lot of really beautiful ecological and topographic conditions. So there's a 200-foot elevation change that brings you from the lower level of the property where, there's our main farm fields. And, really just a backstory on where the agricultural input came in is, the property was historically used as a dairy farm, but as the, New York State small dairy farming business became, more challenging over the years, the scale of the farm got cut back to the point where it was, unused altogether. And so what we've done is, work diligently with a lot of different, really best-in-class consultants across agriculture, ecology, environmental science, law, architecture, site planning, and brought together a scheme that leverages agriculture and ecological systems in order to help deploy a lot of mitigation strategies, not only that are necessary through the course of our development, but also that address some really sorely some areas that are sorely in need of, some attention after decades and decades of neglect. So, in exploring the site and getting to know the terrain, we, found multiple spring houses, for instance, that had been previously cultivated and then otherwise left to rot and let water run down the side of the mountain. Well, when that happens and it hit soils that have been trampled on by heavy cows for many decades, you start to get ponding and runoff related issues. And that's something that has been pervasive throughout, the Catskills historically. But, we want to be part of the solution rather than, just seeing the problems, of neglect perpetuate. And so what we did was we explored, these agricultural techniques, which are, really cornerstones of a regenerative agricultural system, which, put in place, rather than tilling and tearing up the soil structure, put in place permanent crops. So this is effectively reforesting the area with a lot of native trees and shrubs. So one of our, first actions was to, go out there and work with a company called Propagate, and then to plan and deploy, our agroforestry system. So basically using trees as the centerpiece of, how we would bring agricultural productivity to the site. And so these are fast growing shade trees, some light timber trees. We have sugar maples, apples, currants. So any native tree or shrub that, can thrive in the central New York climate is, what we've put back in very large numbers. And that's allowed us to fill in a lot of the area and just start to suck carbon out of the atmosphere and then put it back into these growing root systems, which also help to break up these dense soils and, provide a much better path for drainage and permeability to help to just take massive volumes of water off the property before it ever runs downhill. So we, we're inspired by that and what it can do. And then, but building green infrastructure is nice, but you have to build it, to support something. And so the full thrust of our development, is centered around building a resort community with a mix of different uses. So this is an 80-key resort hotel, including cabins, as well as 9 single-family residences, 2 restaurants, and a pool and other common area facilities. And that's really all kind of centered around the main theme of sustainable development and regenerative agriculture. So not only, can people watch a special on Netflix about what regenerative agriculture is here for the first time, they can dig their hands in the soil, they can see the sheep grazing throughout the different paddocks, and they can really understand what it means to have a climate positive food system right in their own backyard, and then to experience, top-notch culinary and hospitality experiences around that.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about the upgrades you can make to the land that's already inherently a beautiful, beautiful place, but kind of restoring some of its natural features, decarbonizing. Very, very exciting. Then you'll also have very quickly, just tell us a little bit about the 3 restaurants. I think 2 will be there and then 1 somewhere else. Tell us quickly about those.
So the restaurants are related under the same food and beverage operation. 2 on the site, one is a, kind of, let's call it more formal, but finer dining restaurant where you'll have, a tavern, full meal service. And then one is more of a casual 3-meal type cafe for day visitors, as well as breakfast and lunch and quick pickup, that sort of thing. But as far as the culinary program, the very first piece of this ecosystem that's going to be operational will actually be the standalone restaurant that is offsite down in the Hudson Valley. So here in Armonk, we've spent the past 18 months navigating a relatively arduous approval process to build a new structure right here in the heart of downtown. The restaurant will be called Wren of the Woods, a little play on Hen of the Woods, the mushroom variety, but, basically make it localized a little bit more and what we're doing is we're taking a building that was originally constructed in 1820, but it's not landmarked or anything. It's unfortunately lost a lot of provenance over the years, but we'll be reimagining that into one of the area's really first LEED certified standard new construction retail buildings. And in that building, we'll have a full service bar, a restaurant that'll serve lunch and dinner 7 days a week, and then a large, beautiful terrace for when it's sunny and nicer weather out. And we have a tremendous culinary partner who is, been a chef in, many of the most highly regarded Michelin star kitchens throughout the country, including Blue Hill at Stone Barns right over here, which is really kind of the OG of the regenerative food and fine dining movement. She is our executive chef for Wren of the Woods. And then also, we'll be looking to, grow that footprint into the on-site food and beverage operations at Livingston Farm as well. But, we've seen, a tremendous amount of demand growth here in, in this area, and, are really excited to bring this sorely needed concept to the table, to be able to, not only, have a thriving business that, serves locally sourced and responsibly prepared food and drink, but then also, once again, to create food waste that we can then put to productive use, and then to build up awareness so that we can, exercise some synergy between, both the restaurant and then the forthcoming resort property after the fact.
Wow. It's going to be, it just sounds magnificent. I really want to come see this when it's all done. How long will it take to get it done?
It's going to take about a year. We have to construct a new building from the ground up. So, it's about 7 months of construction time. And then, that's bookended by fundraising, marketing, and, actually getting permits and
Sure.
On the back end approvals and things like that with the Department of Health, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, that's faster than I thought. That's very cool. Very, very exciting. Well, listen, everybody, I'm here today with Stefan Martinovic. He is a developer who's working on 3 related projects in New York. It's just a fascinating story. But when we come back from this little break, we're going to talk to him about his superpower. You don't want to miss this, so stick around.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started, or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green.
Want to learn from the world's great change makers? Find your superpower. Subscribe to the Superpowers for Good newsletter at superpowersforgood.com. Make your strengths into superpowers that will change the world. Join the super crowd today. Superpowers4good.com.
Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here with Stefan Martinovic today, a real estate developer in New York who's working on some really cool regenerative agriculture, climate solutions kinds of projects. I hope you'll check them out. But we're going to shift gears now to talk to Stefan about his superpower. So stick around. You don't want to miss this discussion. Stefan, you really have done some cool stuff, and you're doing some things that I really, really love right now. As you think about what's brought you to this point in your life and career, what do you see as your superpower?
Well, I think if I roll back the tape on my whole career, the words real estate and innovation somehow managed to bubble to the top of any job description that I've had over the years. So I started working in the real estate industry back in 2011 after I finished business school, and was involved with a tremendous company down in Washington, D.C. that were doing a mix of projects, but the crown jewel being the revitalization of an underserved community in northeastern D.C. By building an entirely new ground up community. And so that included charter schools and affordable housing, retail, an education center, and a lot of other things, that really can support someone from cradle to career. And, just took a tremendous amount of, appreciation and knowledge out of that experience in terms of how this business can really have a positive and lasting impact on people's lives. Now that was in a, definitively an urban setting, most of our work. We did some hotels as well, but, also in city centers. But what I saw during my time there was, a real gap in the market for, people to access information that is mission critical to, consider decision making, in the real estate investment and development process. And it was a lot of scrambling between different government websites and resources and papers and maps and talking to people. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's mainly how this is, still all done. But I saw an opportunity to build a technology solution that could help to, better inform stakeholders in the real estate investment process. Both the developers and the capital sources themselves, as well as counterparties like architects, construction companies, city governments, and economic development agencies, folks like that. And to, really illuminate a lot of insights that might otherwise either have gone still covered up or have taken just a, prohibitive amount of time and resources to expose. So, back in those days, this is in 2011. So, immediately post iPhone, my partner and I at the time set out on this journey, and we built a company called Create.io, which was pulling together geospatial data into a user-friendly platform for, discovering intelligence about locations. So we had an aspiration to build a Google Earth type of software platform, but that also exposed environmental data, building data, demographics, market conditions, things like that in a more holistic view. And we had some success with that company. We were, very much an early mover in that space, technology-wise. And that has pros and cons. Pro being we were an early mover, the con being that the industry was a little bit slower to adapt and to catch up to us, as was the capital, because a lot of these types of dedicated funds just didn't really exist at the time. But we had some success with that company, moved me up to New York before I, moved on to my next journey. But, from there, I kept on that thread and was continuing to find, ways to apply technology, data, and really innovation more broadly, just bringing fresh ideas to the table to unlock value in the built environment. So, I've been involved with the Urban Land Institute as part of their technology and innovation committee for many years now. And, similarly was, following that path on a professional level as well. So I was the head of innovation for the Real Estate Board of New York. And so I was running our multiple listing service and then convening, many of the top owner operators, developers, and brokerage firms with, emerging technology companies that could help to serve the industry. So I, got to see a lot of interesting things come to market, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, built a tremendous network, and, I've been on this trajectory ever since. So I was doing something similar, building internal tools for a institutional real estate investment company in New York City. And also, finding ways to apply these sorts of techniques and the information advantage to the benefit of my own real estate projects. And so, I, really from the get-go, just because, if nothing else, my exposure to lots of innovative techniques around land planning and design and construction have led me to, a lot of what's on the cutting edge of green building. And, I have, a really unique window in terms of like how to do more with less while achieving the best triple bottom line impact, really. And so, a lot of what I'm doing is not necessarily purely technology driven, but, there is a, whether it's from site analysis all the way through project execution, a heavy presence of technology and innovative, solutions in order to help us achieve a lot of these ambitious goals that we have.
So if you had to put one or two words together to call it your superpower, what are the two words?
Well, how about thinking outside the box?
Okay. Now, what's a quick, specific example of a project where you deployed your ability to think outside the box?
So, in addition to the three that I'm working on now, years back, we proposed a master plan development with a couple of other, leading design and development companies down in Northwest Baltimore, which was a, heavily blighted area. And our solution was to bring in the, at that time, nascent modular building industry into the city and set up a factory where we would create jobs, that paid a living wage, and created a new industry, in an area of the city that really needed it, while also being the vehicle that could help to actually execute the delivery of new housing supply to replace a lot of the stuff that was falling down. So, that we really touched on almost every facet of urban development, integrating that into, a major American city. And a lot of those principles, still have carried through to this day.
Yeah, that's really cool. As you think about thinking outside the box, what would you coach someone, a colleague, a friend, or us to do to become a little bit more of an outside the box, innovative kind of thinker like you?
I come in with a sense of naivete, and that can be blissful in a lot of ways, because if you don't know what you don't know, it can be, it helps to grease the skids a little bit in terms of finding the shortest path from, an objective to an achievement. And, I think that if, you're a little too concerned with playing inside, a business process, a box, which is a business process that maybe others from prior generations had set up and, maybe has a lot of room for improvement, coming in with that beginner's mind and always learning and figuring out like how you can, vet and understand the viability of, let's call them crazy ideas, but, new ways to do it that maybe other folks just haven't, connected the dots on.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Before we wrap up, quickly tell people how they can learn more about the project, how they can learn more about the offering, how they can connect with you personally.
Sure. Well, best way to get to me personally is on LinkedIn. That's, the predominant social media channel I'm active on. And as far as the offering and the projects are concerned, we've been assembling all of our, rich data on all of these individual ventures into our offering page. You can see it here below, smallchange.co/projects/circular. And there is an offering for both accredited and unaccredited investors, depending which bucket you fall into.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We want to wish you every success in your efforts to address climate change and all the other social issues you're working to address. At the same time, you create an opportunity for us to invest in your deal. So thank you very, very much. And again, we wish you every success.
We'll keep fighting the good fight, Devin.
All righty. Now let's do some good.